Welcome to Life from Above. I'm David Kenney. Glad you could be with us on the program. Thanks for watching. I have a special guest with us. Matter of fact, the next few lessons will be special guests, which we're glad to have. We have some students that are getting ready to graduate from the West Virginia School of Preaching, and they have agreed to come in and be interviewed and also give a lesson. So we're thankful for that. And I want to introduce to you Andrew Beasley. Andrew, thanks for coming and appreciate you being here.
Well, it's good to be here, David.
Yeah. A little bit about Andrew and the publishing piece, which is the West Virginia School of Preaching newsletter. I just grabbed a statement from it by the director of the school, Andy Robison. He had this to say about Andrew. He says, since being here, his grades have been very impressive. He knows the value of study both personally and in group settings. He has become a leader among his classmates in studious endeavors and sometimes in some good old-fashioned joviality. He has a great sense of humor and is a very pleasant, personable fellow. So, those are good things. Having a sense of humor, obviously, is very important.
It helps to lighten the load that gets pretty stressful there at the school from time to time. So to be able to laugh and let some of that tension go, it helps.
Well, now, you're from, some of the students are from further away from Wadsworth than others, obviously, but you're relatively close. Why don't you tell them where you're from and a little bit about your family?
Well, I grew up in the North Royalton, Ohio area. I graduated from North Royalton High School in 2002. My mom and dad aren't from this area of the country. They are both from just south of Nashville, Tennessee, and the Franklin, Tennessee area. But my dad worked for the National Park Service, and so he traveled, and they moved a good amount until I came along. And then once I was around, they decided to settle down in this area. He worked for the Cuyahoga Valley. It was a national recreation area when he started there. It's Cuyahoga Valley National Park now. But I grew up starting in the Streetsboro Church of Christ. I was there with my mom and dad until I was about 5 years old. In 1989, we began attending the Medina Church of Christ there on Forest Meadows Drive. And I grew up in that congregation. That's where I have most of my memories as a child with the church, is with the good people of that congregation there.
Now incidentally, we became members at Streetsboro in 1991, so
okay.
we just missed each other. But anyway, you didn't go into preaching school right away.
No.
What sort of led you to that?
Well, there's been a lot of things that over time got me to that point. Kind of the straw, I guess you would say, that broke the camel's back was there was issues down in Tennessee with a congregation there. The congregation my dad grew up in, the 4th Avenue Church of Christ. They brought on a female preaching intern to work with them, and she spoke on a Sunday morning, and I remember just being astounded by the fact that a congregation I knew that at least at one time was sound would let something like that happen. And it hit a little bit more home for me that my mom and dad were married in that congregation back in the 60s, and so to see how things can fall apart and how people can fall away and turn from the truth, it really just, I guess, opened my eyes more than they already had been to the need for men who have the ability to get up and to speak and preach the truth to do so. And I recognized that I didn't have the experience, and I needed the intense study that the School of Preaching provides. And so it was in the fall of 2014 that I began searching various preaching school websites and really came to know at least a little bit more about the West Virginia School of Preaching and feeling like that was the best fit for me. There's a lot of good preaching schools out there, but I really do believe the West Virginia School of Preaching is a great place, and it's been exactly what I needed.
Now it's for those who are unfamiliar with the school, and some people think it's like college, and it's not. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more intense than a liberal arts education, a lot more concentrated, maybe might be another way to put it. But why don't you give them sort of an idea of what the aspects are of being a student at the School of Preaching?
Okay. Well, we start every day off there with chapel. Chapel begins at 8:30 in the morning, and lasts for about a half an hour. Now that is, it's a wonderful way for us to begin our day. We don't, in most secular jobs, you don't have that opportunity to start every day off focusing on worshiping God. But it also gives us, the students, the opportunity, really our first opportunity to preach. We speak our first sermons there in chapel before they really let us go out and start preaching for other congregations. But class-wise, we have classes Monday through Friday. They run 9 to noon and 1 to 4. We get a lunch break from 12 to noon. But it's very intense study. You spend a lot of time with a lot of good men, very well-respected men who are knowledgeable and who care. And I think that's one of the most striking things about the school is that, when you go to a secular college, secular university, whatever, a lot of times the professors, they don't care if you show up to class, how well you do. What you do is really your own responsibility. And it's like that. The responsibility aspect is like that at the school, but you have the teachers there who genuinely care about your education and about you learning the truth of the Bible and being able to apply that to your preaching and to your life so that you can take that and teach people and help them grow as Christians. And for those who haven't become Christians, you can help to bring them to the knowledge of the truth and to Christ and to being baptized. And it's intense. There's a lot of work that goes on. It's not, your work doesn't stop at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's plenty of days that you spend studying until late in the afternoon, late in the evening. I've spent countless hours preparing for papers, and writing papers, preparing sermons, studying for tests, just reading the text that we have. There's a lot of reading that goes along with the classes that we have. It's just a very, very thorough education, and it's, to me, in my mind, it's exactly what a person needs in preparing to go out and do the work of the ministry and the gospel.
Now, I got a master's degree from Kent State, and that's obviously that's not a Christian college. Mm-hmm. But one of the things, and you can sort of elaborate on this. Some of these professors at the state schools, they have so many students that it's impossible for mm-hmm. them to be able to get personable with practically any of them, any of the students and everything. So you sort of get that impression that they don't care. Maybe some of them don't, I don't know.
Right.
But some of them, they're just not able to. But the school preaching is not like that, is it?
No, not at all.
You've got a lot of interaction with their teachers. And why don't you talk a little bit about that? Some of the teachers that you really admired and why, and how much interaction you have with them as compared to maybe some other places.
Well, I admire, it'd be easy to say I admire all of my teachers, because
Sure.
all of the teachers we have at the school make a large sacrifice in order to be there. They're not paid. Many of them take their days off from their own local work to drive a number of hours. I know a couple of our teachers drive over 3 hours to be there with us. And sometimes it's only for just the morning session. It's from 9 until noon. They don't even get a full day with us. So from that aspect, I really admire the teachers. But there's a lot of influential men who teach there. Emmanuel Doherty, I think, the world of. And he's had a long and effective ministry in the Ohio and West Virginia areas. Now he's retired and living down in Florida, but through the wonders of the internet and Skype, he's still able to teach. He teaches every quarter except the third quarter. He has a class with one of the 2 years of the students there. He's been an encouragement to me. He has a very similar sense of humor to mine, a little bit dry and sarcastic, but he's just a great man, a wonderful man to learn from and just be able to pick his brain. Along with him, the director of the School of Preaching, Andy Robison, I don't think enough can be said about the work that he does. And that's not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. I don't know that there's a harder working individual in the brotherhood today, and he wouldn't admit to that. He's humble, but he's a fantastic teacher, and he never feels like he's prepared enough, but I can speak for my classmates and say, we've enjoyed every class that we have had with him, and have learned a great deal from him. There's men like Charles Pugh and Terry Varner who have done extensive work in their careers, who we have the ability to be in their classroom, sit at their feet, so to speak, and learn Christian evidences and about the inspiration of the Bible and how we can determine biblical authority and those kind of things. And so, there's a large amount, a good amount of teachers there. They're all very knowledgeable, very good. But those are, I would say, the men who have really made an impact on me personally, who I have, I don't want to say mimic, but who I've tried to take things that I respect about them, apply them to my own life and to my work as a preacher.
Sure. All right, so now you take classes, you're doing presentations in chapel with one another, and obviously you're giving probably feedback one to another, and encouragement to one to another. But eventually, you're obviously going to need to have experience outside of the school, preaching for places, and you've had some of that. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? You're preaching outside of the school itself.
Well, one of the nice things about the school is you get to meet a lot of people. There's a lot of people who support the school outside of just the teachers. The congregations in the area like to have students come and speak. Many times they're smaller congregations who can't afford to have a full-time preacher working for them. But I've been able to preach a lot in Ohio. I worked as an intern at the Medina Church of Christ this summer, and was able to spend my time working with them and focusing on just the work there. But above that, I've been able to speak once a month there, and at some other congregations as well in Ohio. And that's such a benefit to us too, because one of the biggest things about public speaking is you need to do it to get better at it, to get more comfortable with it. And so having these wonderful congregations who, you walk through the doors there and they're just thrilled to see you. So many of them are so supportive of us and what we do at the school, and they just like to see us and help us to improve, give us those opportunities to get into the pulpit and to speak and to, iron out some of the tics and the little strange things that people do when they speak publicly. But they give us those chances, and it's as beneficial to us as our education is, because that is the application of what we've spent countless hours studying for. And so they give us those chances to hone the craft, so to speak, to be able to present our sermons more effectively, and to get people who genuinely care about you and want you to succeed, and who will give you critiques and show you how you could improve upon what you're doing to maybe deliver your message more effectively, to cut people to the heart, to open their eyes to all that God has done for them. And so as important as the school is, I think these congregations that support us and give us those opportunities to preach are equally as important, because they give us the opportunity to improve as well.
Just sort of switch gears a little bit, but not much. One of the questions I wanted to ask you about, and this may or may not be your favorite class per se, because I know that the curriculum for the West Virginia School of Preaching is very much books of the Bible driven.
Very much.
And but one of the questions I want to ask you is, what going into the school, what was your favorite book of the Bible? I know they're all great. I understand that.
Right.
But we generally have things that and sometimes it just depends on the circumstance that we're going through. But what is one of your favorite books of the Bible from your personal standpoint, and then maybe also what class on the books of the Bible did you really like? And they may not be the same, I don't know, but let's leave that to you to answer.
Coming into the school of preaching, my favorite book of the Bible has always been Nehemiah. I tell people that, and I kind of get funny looks because I don't think that's a normal choice for a favorite book of the Bible. But I love the story of Nehemiah, especially early on when he's praying to God and how heartfelt his prayers are. And you can see just the anguish that he feels at the state that his people have fallen to. But then the encouragement of how they go back and they rebuild the wall. Then they not just they rebuild the wall, but they use the pieces of the wall that had been torn down and destroyed to rebuild it. And I think we can take such application from that to our own lives and to our own ministries and to the people that we work with who have many times struggled, many times fallen away. And, a lot of times we focus on reaching those who haven't ever heard the truth. But to me, the book of Nehemiah, as great as the story is, applying it in the immediate context of Nehemiah's life, taking that and recognizing, hey, Nehemiah used pieces that had been torn down and fallen away. We need to do the same thing as Christians in our lives and try and reach those who have been taught the truth and for whatever reason been pulled away. Bring them back in as well. And focus on them, not forget them at least either. But through my studies at the school, Isaiah has become what I would say is my favorite book of the Bible, and that's just the prophecies. Predictive prophecy in the Bible is such an astounding aspect to me, and it is such overwhelming evidence for the inspiration of the Bible. But there's so much more to the book of Isaiah than that. The prophecies about the suffering Savior and Jesus, that he would come, the nature of his birth. It's such a rich book with broad application. It doesn't just focus on one city, one nation. There's just it's so deep and rich and so much that you can take and learn from it. And I've really enjoyed it. And one of the congregations I have been working with, I'm teaching Wednesday night Bible class on, and we started studying the book of Isaiah just because that's my one of my favorite books now, and a book that I've really taken a lot of interest in. We don't necessarily get a lot of study in the prophets. Sometimes prophecy is difficult to understand, and so I think sometimes we shy away from that. But I think they're important, and we need to have a full understanding of the Bible. And so I'm giving it a shot, and so far it seems to be going pretty well.
Well, you've been, obviously you've been you've been focusing on education with the school and all that, but as we all know, education, learning, it never stops.
Right.
What do you see future education plans? Do you have anything to do that going forward? What kind of things do you look at in the future to keep yourself sharp and to learn more? Because the Bible is going to challenge us all the days of our lives. People that don't think that are really cheating themselves. But what are some of your thoughts or plans about continuing your education?
Well, thankfully, there's a lot of really good lectureships that you can take the time to go to, and great men who have spent their lifetime studying the Bible speak on these lectureships. So you can go and listen to those men speak, and you don't have to spend an extensive amount of time. They're usually a week long. The school hosts one once a year in October, and so those are there for us to learn from. There's a lot of, on top of that, good gospel meetings that go on all over Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and areas nearby that are there and available for people to go, myself included, and learn from those men who are speaking there. But on top of that, I hope to be able to, if I'm close enough by, whatever work I end up in, if I'm close enough by, to be able to come back here and there and retake some of the classes, maybe one day a week, that I've taken at the school to, kind of hammer that information home again, to go through that deep, detailed, in-depth study of some of these subjects and books all over again. On top of that, there's plenty of opportunities to try and further your education through the great Christian universities we have. Freed Hardman and Heritage Christian especially offer a lot of help to students who have graduated from preaching schools. They're willing to transfer some of the things that we do at the preaching school, which is not an accredited school, to their universities and apply them as credits taken, to the point where a lot of times it's 2 or 3 semesters worth of credits that they're willing to give you. And above that, they offer scholarships, and they do their best to be able to help graduates of preaching schools then go on to be able to obtain degrees and to further their education in that aspect. And so I don't know, if that's something that I may do in the future. It's certainly a possibility, and I'm not opposed to it. I would love to, if time allows and the opportunities present themselves.
So speaking of the future, I mean, obviously you have graduation coming up here pretty
Very
soon. Ready or not, here we go.
Right.
What are some of your plans? What do you see on the immediate horizon?
Well, my goal is to be working with a local work when I graduate. I've spent a lot of the year sending resumes out, spending times with different congregations, West Virginia, Ohio, trying out and preaching for them. There's a congregation, I don't have a contract signed or anything like that yet, so I don't want to reveal who it is, in case things fall through. But there's a congregation I feel pretty confident that I'm going to be able to work with once I graduate, and that's kind of my primary focus, is to get into local work, start really getting to know the members there better, and being able to focus my sermons and everything I do in my life on being able to help them grow spiritually and physically. You always like to see new people coming to knowledge of the truth, being baptized, and growing the numbers of the church. But just to be able to help them do whatever they need me to do, and that's really what I'm looking forward to. I work as a camp counselor for the West Virginia Christian Youth Camp. I plan on continuing to do that, for at least a few more years, because I think those kids are wonderful, and it's great to see them be involved in Christian activities in their summertime, when there's so many things, vacations and other things that they can be involved in, to take time out of their lives to spend it at a place like that. But those are really my 2 focuses, is really getting into the local work and starting to do that to the best of my ability, as well as continuing on with the West Virginia Christian Youth Camp.
Oh, great. Another question I wanted to ask you, obviously you're starting out, but where do you sort of see yourself working on, say, maybe 15 years from now?
Well, my hope is that I'm still, I have every intention of still being a preacher, still preaching the truth, trying to reach the lost. This is what I love to do. It's interesting because I've worked secular work before, and I've enjoyed my jobs. But as a preacher, I find when I'm not in the pulpit on a Sunday, I miss being in the pulpit. I miss preaching, and so I really feel like this is what I love to do, and I don't see myself doing anything else.
Oh, great. Andrew, we're really thankful for you to take time out of your schoolwork to come up all the way to Wadsworth to be a part of the program, and we wish you every success and everything that's right.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's always good to be back home.
Well, that's all the time we have now. Thank you for watching Light from Above, and glad you could be with us today, and may the Lord bless you. Before we close our program today, we'd like to take a moment and review this roadmap to heaven with you, since the matter is so serious. There are many incorrect set of directions out there, and sadly so many people are following them. For example, some people have been given wrong turns. They believe things such as faith only, works only, or grace only. Or some attempt to change the order of the turns, being baptized before they even believe. Some people fail to realize what point they are on the map. Don't even open their Bibles yet, and they think they're saved already. As a person travels in a car or takes a hike, has to follow the proper directions, so we must follow the proper directions to heaven. Let's take a look at the directions on our roadmap to heaven here. You have to look at these passages in your Bible for yourself. We'll just list the steps, the turns on the way. First is to believe or to have faith. And then number 2, to repent, to turn away from sin. Number 3 is to confess that Jesus is the Son of God. Number 4 is immersion, or to be baptized, which is a burial in water to have your sins washed away. And then you're added to the church by the Lord, not by a group of people, or not by giving some kind of testimonial experience or things like that. And then once you're added, you need to serve and worship the Lord faithfully all the days of your life. And the key word's faithfully. You don't waver. And that's very important. We need to keep in mind, too, that in Noah's day there was a big flood, and only people in the ark were saved from the flood. The same is true today. There is no salvation outside the Lord's church. Where are you on the roadmap to heaven? Thanks for watching our program. Please let us know if we can assist you with further information for your journey.